Check, check. Nice. That works. Glad that you are all here. I'm going to talk a little bit about music NFTs, or the next parts are all about music NFTs. There will be a panel afterwards, so after my talk, make sure to stay as well. Myself, a little bit about me. For the last 10 years, I worked in the music industry and I led development teams, and we developed software for independent labels and distributors. And from this year on, I'm explaining people what Web3 is all about. And yeah, I also run a little recording studio. Okay, now let's go into the presentation with a little bit clickbaity headline: NFT saving the music industry. And I want to start and get a bit more serious with, does the music industry even need to be saved? And to understand this, because we're not at a music conference, but at a Web3 conference, so I want to show you guys a little bit how the music industry looks like today, so we can better understand how music NFTs fit in there and what music NFTs are. All right, so to understand this, how the market is divided, we have three major labels: Universal, Sony, Warner. Hi, Holger. And 1/3 is independent artists, labels, distributors, so basically everyone that is not part of the three big firms. And if we look at the music sales, this is from last year. 65% from the revenues are based on streaming. 20% physical, so vinyl, CD, and so on. And yeah, the rest is just some other revenues. But you see, streaming really dominates the sales nowadays. And if we look at the charts over the last couple of years, the sales increased because of streaming, while all the other revenue streams stayed the same or even decreased. The yellow one is physical, so they even decreased. But looking at physical, I want to pick out vinyl because it shows, this is from 2010 to 2021. Of course, we need to take inflation into consideration, but the sales increased, and this shows that while we have an access model nowadays with streaming services where you can basically access everything, people still want to collect, and vinyl is basically the collector's item deluxe, as you could say. And this shows that while we can access everything, people still want to collect. It's like humans are built, and Chris will later go into detail on this as well in his talk. But this is important to understand why music NFTs will be valuable for the fans. So a little view into what does the artist get. If we look at the streaming revenues, you need 1 million streams to get $3,000. Of course, streaming is not the only revenue, and it brings a lot of marketing activity, but most of the people don't know how many is actually getting to the artist. And there's a long way from the artist to the fans. There's a lot of people in between: lawyers, agencies, management, distributors, streamers, and they all want their part, which they deserve to, of course, but it's important to understand that along the way, the artist often gives up their rights as well when signing to a label or a distributor. So to close this one up, the music industry, in terms of music sales, events industry doesn't look good. Go to concerts, it's very important for everyone involved in the industry. But in terms of sales, it's looking better than it has been for a lot of years, and unfortunately, it often doesn't reach the artists. So this is where music NFTs could come in, because Web3 is all about giving back the power to the individual artist creator. We will later see, okay, it depends on how much it really will help, but at least we have something new that could make it fairer for everyone. So this leads to the question, what are music NFTs? And in its plain form, it's just a song, and on the trading platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, looks rare, you just see the cover and then it is linked to the song. Or you have an audio-visual combination where you have the video combined with the audio. and then you see both on the marketplaces. This is probably, if you looked at OpenSea into the music category, then most of them are not one of those, but they are basically everything that has to do with music or a musician. As long as a musician or an artist does anything in the Web3 world, it's called a music NFT, even though it's only a PFP collection. So you could say everything related to a musician is called a music NFT, even though it wouldn't be just this in the plain form. And to just give you some examples, Philip, hi, he's here from 12 by 12. They are a German marketplace, and I think they do this really, really well because they don't call it NFTs. They call it digital vinyl. And I think this is really important because we looked at this collector's aspect. People want to collect, and they understand this. They don't go out there because, let's be honest, NFT is kind of being negative in the mainstream nowadays. It's how it is. I mean, we're at a Web3 conference. We all like this, but let's be honest, the mainstream doesn't like the word NFT. And if we're really honest, they don't need to. If we call it digital vinyl or a collector's item, people understand this. They don't understand what an NFT is. Yeah, it's the technology which this is based on, but the important thing is people can collect something because of it in the digital world, and that is the real asset. And what they do is they also do this in a price range for the artists that the people know already from the physical world. This is also really important. A price range from 10 to 60 euros is nothing like in the NFT world. You buy something for 500 euro if you translate the ETH costs into fiat money. So this is something that the mainstream gets, and I think this is where we should be going, and I think this is where we're going, because if we want to onboard more people, and I think we heard this often today and yesterday, this is the way to go. And people can buy with real money, not the magic internet money, crypto, but they can just buy with normal euros or dollars with a credit card, and that's also something that makes it easier for people to get onboarded. Another example to show what is possible is the marketplace Serenade. I think they're doing this pretty well as well. You see, they are calling it digital pressings, so similarity here. And they, a digital pressing is basically a chart-relevant album format. For now, in the UK and Australia, but they're working on doing this in more countries. So I think this is where we will see this even more. This was with Warner Records, so one of the three majors as well. And this shows they are experimenting. They know this is important. We can do something that is chart relevant if we get an NFT album or a digital pressing in the charts. This is on one side a marketing, not a marketing stunt, but it's a marketing tool. And we can use this technology to generate new income in the digital world, because we can transfer this physical collector's assets into the digital world. So this is also very clever, because if you get into the charts, you get more eyes on your music, so it just makes sense. Another thing that you can do with NFTs is, here this example is from another blog.io, but there's also Royal and some other platforms. They are not just saying, okay, you get this collector's item where you have the emotional value for yourself, but you can also get a share of the revenues from the streaming services. In this example with here, Rehab and Laidback Luke, they have like 24 million monthly listeners, not streams, but monthly listeners, so a lot more monthly streams. And they did a drop of 250 NFTs for, they did it in ETH, not as easy as with 12 by 12, where you could buy it with fiat money, but it was basically 50 to 70 euros, so also transferable. And they said you get 0.02% of the revenue shares, and they say on their page you will get probably 19% return on your initial invest, because Normally, those two artists, they will probably generate around 22 million streams uh, in the first year, which is basically like 10 to 12 euros or something like that. And you don't only have the NFT, which has emotional value and which can change in price, but you also have this kind of passive income. It will be interesting to see if this is. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not sure if this will work in the future, but this is something that people out there are doing right now. So we will see. Something that really, really makes sense, in my opinion, is ticketing. NFT tickets make so much sense because nowadays, if you buy a Katy Perry ticket, for example, for 100 euros, on the second market it goes for 500, and no one from the promoters, artists gets something out of those second sales. And with NFT tickets, if there are royalties on it for like 10%, if it gets sold for another 500, you would get another 50 euro. So this makes sense, but it also gives a lot of innovative possibilities to the artist or to the industry, because once you go into the concert and the ticket gets scanned, it could change, or it could display that you were one of the first 100 people going into the concert hall, which is very important for some people. I still have my concert tickets from one of my first concert tickets, so it's great. I just talked to Chris about this, and he said, how amazing would it be if you have the set list after the concert that shows up on your NFT metadata, for example. So there's a lot of innovative ways that are now possible. So except for flippers who just want to buy the tickets to sell them more expensive later, I think for everyone else it makes sense. So this is another use case. And to sum this one up, those are all big artists that you probably know or maybe not know, but I collected those because I wanted to show all the big companies, all the big players, not all of them, but a lot of them are experimenting and trying out new things. And we here see Kingship from Universal, the Bored Ape Band. In the middle is Steve Aoki. You probably seen Eminem and Snoop Dogg with their video. So there's a lot of big companies and artists that are doing things, which leads to the question, is it only something for big players, or maybe something for established, for smaller or emerging artists as well? I brought two examples for this. They are a Web2 artist, September Morning. It's a metal band. I chose them because I like metal, so you could choose a lot of other artists, but they don't have so much fans. They're not very small. They have 43K monthly listeners, but in comparison to the other artists that we saw, not that big. So they just went out there and said, okay, let's do a PFP collection. So profile picture. Again, we saw a music NFT doesn't have to be a music NFT or music per se. They just use this to get in some money, because it takes a lot of time to get the revenues from the streaming services. It can take up to 3 to 6 months sometimes. And in this case, they sold the 1,000 PFPs and they gained some money directly. And a lot more than they probably would have gained over the next couple of months and years with the music. And they basically did the same that 12 by 12 or Serenade did. They just used the PFP as an entry to their exclusive core community. They said you can get exclusive Discord access, you can chat with the band. They said you can download our songs before they come out 1 week ahead. You get 15% 15% on merch if you're at a concert and you show that you own the NFT. So they use this technology just to get a new revenue stream, which is really interesting, I think. And another example is OMG Kirby or OMG Kirby. They are basically a native Web3 label, brand, however you want to call it, agency. And they dropped several collections, OMG Kirby being the first, this the one in the top right, which was an audiovisual combination, and they said, you own the full rights of the stems. And they do some collaborations with other people in the space or with established artists. And one of the users that bought 2 of the NFTs, who gained the rights because it wasn't completely independent artists, and they got all the rights, just uploaded it to Spotify, and it got over 2 million streams because it was added to the lo-fi Spotify official playlist. So that's how it can turn out as well. Just to show you, okay, there's already Web3 native brands doing stuff or something coming out of the Web3 scene as well, not only the Web2 smaller or bigger artists, but also, yeah, Web3 natives. To sum this all up, what's next? I think there will be an integration into established structures. So established companies, as we already saw, they are experimenting with the new technologies. They are seeing how can we use this as chart-relevant formats, with licensing. What can we do with this? We will have NFT concert tickets. We will probably have faster payouts through micropayments, which means due to blockchain technology, it will be possible to pay out the streaming revenues directly after the song has been streamed, because it's set in smart contracts who gets what. We're not still there, but possible in the future probably. And we will maybe see a fairer distribution of the royalties. After or next to what is done by the established companies is things that are born from the Web3 and Metaverse native brands. So we will see some platforms and artists. It will be interesting to see who wins the race, basically, or is it some Web3 brands, some established brands? Probably both. We will see Metaverse concerts. We already seen this in Fortnite with Marshmallow, for example. Millions of users just listened to that and were part of it. I think that this will be a big thing in the future, especially for the younger generations. Maybe not for some of us, but I think very much for the younger generations. And maybe we will see, as we saw for the OMG Kirby, but also for the established labels and agencies, they may change a bit or add new topics as well. For example, as we see now for NFT projects, maybe the labels also offer, let's think about tokenomics. How do we do NFT drops? Does it make sense to do an NFT drop? How big is it? And everything like that, to do some community marketing and management. And yeah, to basically what most of them are already doing, digital brand building, but also in the metaverse or in the new digital worlds that we will see in the future. So we will have new income opportunities for artists. The existing structures will get diluted. The question is how much and how long will it take? I'm not sure, we will see. There will probably be a fairer distribution of revenues. There is a new possibility of core community building, and something that is important is streaming and NFTs can coexist. Because I often heard or often hear that people think that once I do NFTs, I can't put my music on streaming services, but this is not true. Of course you can do this. As long as you have the rights to the music, you can, of course, bring out an NFT collection or do it in cooperation with the label who owns the rights. This is, of course, possible, and you can use Spotify as an additional revenue stream or as marketing, because if you show up in a playlist, someone who never heard you before may become your fan, so why not do both? It's not an if or not. So, music NFTs are here to stay, would be my end. But what about strategies for musicians in Web3? And this is what we're going to talk about in the next panel with some amazing people here. Yeah, I got a POAP. If you see me, just talk to me. If you don't know what a POAP is, come to me as well. I will explain it to you. That's it. Thanks, and I hope you stay so you listen to the panel that we will have now to talk about strategies for musicians in Web3. Thanks.